Hello, hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome, welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Imari Ventura Roches. I am a licensed speech language pathologist. I am an educational administrator, and I'm a special needs parent coach. If you don't know me, hello. It's nice to meet you for the first time. And I am the administrator in this group, Special Needs Supermoms. So I'm glad for everybody who's watching. I'm glad to everybody who's here. It's nice to see you. And like I say every month, it's just a pleasure to be here, to pour, to teach, educate, and I'm glad and thankful to everybody who is watching. Um, so, hello. Um, Today we're talking about a little bit of a different topic. My theme for tonight is gratitude and growth, right? Celebrating progress, not perfection. Celebrating progress, not perfection. So I know there's lots of moms and even some dads and even professionals watching who are not located in the United States. That's okay. However, November is the month for Thanksgiving. So all month long, it's really typical that we reflect, right? We ponder on things we're grateful for leading up to Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving, lots of people around their tables, they talk about that. So I thought, what better time to talk about growth and progress and our gratitude for our kids in than the month of November. We are winding down 2025, excuse me, and it's just been like a whirlwind. It's gone so fast. I hope that everybody's experienced something new and exciting and has been able to push through and really see the fruit of all of their dedication and hard work. I hope that every one of you is receiving a great harvest. That is my desire for you. So let's talk about this. I think it's a very important topic. I spoke to a dad today over the phone about his son, and typically, when I have IEP meetings, when I talk to parents about their kids, I like to ask them, so what's going on? What do you see? Why did you decide to do this? How have things been progressing? Tell me about the home. And today, this particular dad told me that his child really doesn't do much. He doesn't see any progress, and he's just, doesn't believe that he's learning or anything's changing. And so your child changing um is happening whether you see it or not. Your child progressing and changing is happening whether you see it or not. It may be happening at a rate that is slower than other kids their age, but it is happening. Your ability to see your child progressing 100% depends on you and your mindset. How about that? Your child is progressing and growing every single day. Your child is meeting milestones, albeit slowly. They are meeting milestones, they are growing and they are learning and they are acquiring new skills. It's happening, whether you like it or not. Your ability to perceive, to see, and recognize their growth depends 100% on your mindset. Let's get started. As moms of neurodivergent children, you already know that their development, their hitting milestones is not going to happen at the same rate as other kids, right? Most moms that I speak to have an indication of this in the early years, between birth and 5. There's very few parents that I meet who did not get a diagnosis or some indication or who were not the symptoms of, right, were not presented between 0 and 5. There are pediatricians, right, are all different. But the ability to detect developmental delay usually occurs between birth and 5. Different from academic delay. That may be detected later, but developmental delay is detected between birth and 5. Okay. So already parents have some inkling and indication and understanding that their child is not hitting milestones like everybody else. And that is what it is. That is something that we have to understand. However, we can take a couple of moments to recognize every step, every attempt, every smile, every sound, every vocalization, every new bit of independence, because it matters deeply. It matters. And your ability to shift your mind to recognize the small steps changes the way you approach your child, which then, in effect, is going to change the way that they function and behave and develop with you. So let's get started. Progress is not linear. I haven't shared this with anybody on social media. I've been telling my friends and people at the gym. I am in a 6-week challenge. We are now currently in week 4. I get on the scale every day. It has not been a perfect descent of my weight. Okay? It has been down, then I got my period. It went up, then I finished, then it came back down. Now I'm kind of at a plateau. So progress is rarely linear and it is rarely perfect. Even for neurotypical kids, typically developing kids with no diagnosis, progress is not linear. Traditional milestones can feel discouraging when your child's development looks different. Okay. I met with a family a couple of weeks ago whose child suffers from seizures, right? Her developmental track was very scattered, very bumpy, very up and down because the presence of seizures had her to fall down, had her skills to regress. But between every major milestones are dozens of tiny victories that deserve to be celebrated and shared. Okay? There are small things. So when I spoke to this dad today and he said, "Oh, we're going to call the little boy L. L doesn't speak. L doesn't say anything to me. He doesn't look at me." And I told him, I said, communication is different from language. L is communicating, but he just doesn't have verbal language. But he is communicating, and his communicating is getting more and more complex and consistent than it was even 3 months ago. And that is something to be celebrated. So, for example, maybe your child didn't say a full sentence. And I'm a speech pathologist, so I see lots of kids who don't say full sentences. But they looked at you when you said their name. That's huge. That's big. That is a big deal. That's connection. And that's growth in receptive language. Okay, they may not have said a full sentence, but you called their name and they looked at you. Maybe they didn't button their whole shirt from top to bottom, right? But they were able to put their arm through a sleeve. And that is progress. Coordination and motor planning, something that they didn't have before. These are steps between milestones, right? So the milestone will be the day that they have all of the strength and coordination to button their shirt. And it builds. However, today they can put on both sleeves, right? And so we build on that. Maybe they can only put on one sleeve, but guess what? With assistance and prompting and tactile cues, and some guidance, direct instruction, and some feedback, they can get their arm through that other sleeve. And then maybe over time and with repetition, they can put those sleeves on independently. And guess what? They have on a shirt. So they're all tiny steps. They're all tiny victories, baby steps that lead to a desired outcome. But all of those small steps have to be recognized and celebrated. Drop a comment, a big win or a small win that you saw this week. I think it's very encouraging to other parents. We have to change our mindset. Okay, that brings me to point number two, the gratitude mindset. The gratitude mindset. When we practice gratitude for growth, even the smallest signs of it, we shift from frustration to hope. Ladies and gentlemen, the father that I spoke to today for Elle was so frustrated. He was so frustrated. And he said, it's really frustrating because he's expecting his son to speak at 4 years old. He's expecting him to. His mindset and his expectations for Elle are those of typically developing kids. How is that fair when Elle is nonverbal? Elle is in a specialized class of 8 kids who have spectrum diagnoses, who demonstrate spectrum symptoms. And dad expects him to speak. So there's a mind shift. There's a mindset shift that has to happen. Gratitude isn't ignoring challenges. It's not. It's not ignoring challenges. It's not fake. It's choosing to see and recognize and celebrate the small victories. It's recognizing the beauty and the hope. The beauty that they did something now that they didn't do before, and the hope that they will do more and build off the skill that you're seeing right now. Okay, gratitude is not ignoring the fact that your child is 4 and can't speak. Gratitude is choosing to see beauty in the fact that he can communicate by bringing you to the desired object, that he can approximate a sound, so he can bring you to the kitchen, he can approximate for milk, and he's continuing to work on this so that he will say milk eventually in speech therapy and then generalize it into the home. That is gratitude. Every new word, every brave attempt, every meltdown that lasted 2 minutes less. These are all signs of your child's development and resilience. You have to understand that they are pushing through. When we think about cognitive, speech and language, motor milestones, and the therapy that goes into strengthening these areas, adaptive independence. When we think about these areas, I was talking to a mom today. The little boy cannot transition from the floor to standing up. He has a really, really weak trunk. He's going to work in physical therapy to do that. And the first several times that he transitions, tries to get up, get on his feet, he's going to fall because he's weak in his trunk. It takes resilience to stand up. Maybe he'll get on all fours, a bear stance, and then work his way up. But it takes resilience. And yes, we're there, the therapists are there to coach them and push them and guide them, but they still have to activate their muscles. They still have to activate their muscles, right? And in doing that, it's wobbly, it's unstable, but they do it. And we push them and we coach them. And and the fact if their child can, from a being on the floor to getting on all fours, first, that's something to be celebrated before he even stands up. Because there's a lot of resilience that goes into that. Okay, again, I'm going to say, put it in the chat. What is a big or small win this week? Does your child usually have meltdowns that range between 8 and 10 minutes? And this week it was 6 minutes. That is progress. That is progress. And that's the type of patience and recognition of of movement that that you have to see. Feeding therapy. You have to have a complete shift in mindset with feeding therapy. There's kids who look at the plate and gag, and that's it. That's the session. That's the session. They look at the plate, they don't like the way it feels, looks, tastes, sounds, smells. They're totally turned off with it sensorily. They look at it and they gag. They smell it and they gag. So from going to that to then food play and touching it, right? That's something to celebrate. That's something to acknowledge. That deserves a hand clap and a hug and anything else. And then to go from touching it to licking your fingers and getting a taste, it could just be one finger. And then from that, that's something to be celebrated, licking those fingers. Because you used to gag, but now you're engaging. A child can engage with the food, touch it, lick their fingers. And to go from that then to a spoonful, that's huge. That's huge. And you have to see these baby steps. And then a teaspoon turns into a quarter of a plate, and a quarter of a plate turns into a third of a plate, and a third of a plate turns into half of a plate, and so on and so forth until your child is eating a meal and transitions off of Pediasure and liquid thickeners and supplements and weight gainers and gets on the curve for their size, for their height, and their age. There's tremendous progress to make as long as you have the right mindset. Okay. Tools for tracking growth. If you have not downloaded November's digital download November's digital download. It's called Reflect, Record, Rejoice. Reflect, record on the tracker, and then rejoice. It's a progress tracker for parents. You can jot down the small but mighty changes that you notice at home and use them to celebrate with your rehab team, therapist, or your school team. But it is a powerful tool and it's observable. You guys, I have my Fitness Pal but before my Fitness Pal, I'm really gonna give the credit to Lose It. If you have an Apple phone, I think all Apple phones have Lose It. When I started to track my intake, my food, and my calories, I realized I was drinking all this juice, consuming all this sugar, and that was halting my weight loss progress. Track it. There's so many things you think you see, you think you know, you think if you track it, you'll see the trends. If you get the tracker, it's not complicated. It's do it weekly and you will see growth. And I'm telling you, it changes the way you approach and interact with your child. So download that, please. Reflect, record, rejoice. A progress tracker for parents. Okay. I know it's hard to keep track of those little moments. And it's like if you don't keep track of it, you don't see it, you don't remember it. This is why this month's digital download is so powerful and so relevant to all of us. You can jot down those small but mighty changes and share them with the team. So go ahead, look in, it's in the feed. I already posted it the 3rd. It went live. I dropped it. It's in the feed. Look in the group, in the feed, or look on my private Facebook page, or look on communication resources at Instagram. Get your copy, please. Thank you. Okay. And just remember, you'll be able to see how the little progress adds up and turns into big stories of growth. Okay. It'll be something to rejoice over. Okay. I want to let you know your consistency. Your love and advocacy shape your child's whole entire world. Your love, your consistency, your advocacy shape your child's whole entire world. Even on the days when it doesn't feel like it, it makes a difference. You cannot sow a seed and not see a harvest. When you sow that seed, you will see the harvest. Okay, so growth happens in small moments and in the routines, in the love that you show every day. If you go and look at my YouTube or look in this group at all of these conversations, I speak so much about the combination of routine and structure and your love and your consistency. It makes the difference. It's about progress, not perfection. If you watched my Autism Parent series with Dr. Angela Lawrence, she shared with us this amazing poem about going to Holland, right? And the person was on the plane thinking that they were going to Italy, and they packed for Italy. They were ready for Italy. They wanted to get there. They were so excited to see all the ancient ruins and experience the cuisine and to hear the language. And then the plane took them to Holland. And if you're able to make the mind shift, you'll love Amsterdam. The windmills, the bridges, the tulips. I've been. I love it. It's beautiful. Such a charming. Amsterdam is such a charming city. I don't know about the rest of Holland. But if you were expecting to get to Italy and you don't make the shift, you will only complain when you get to Holland. That's the gist of the poem. And the same concept, the same lesson is applied here. If we don't make the shift, we won't see the progress. Small steps are still steps forward. Small steps are still steps forward. Neurodivergent children need more time to acquire skills. They need repetition, guidance, direct instruction, and in many cases, corrective feedback and more attention. And with those things, they will progress. Celebrate what's happening now, not just what's next. Because in that too, in anticipating and waiting for the next thing and hoping and not hoping, but in believing and waiting for the next, you're not present on what's happening now. Okay, please tag another mom. Tag another mom who would benefit from this. Your girlfriend, your neighbor, your sister, your comadre, somebody. Tag them. Share this with another mom. And come back next week. We're going to talk about progress over progression. Get your digital download for the month of December and start tracking. It's not an essay. It's nothing that is complicated or difficult. It's just observing and jotting down the small steps. How much assistance did you give them? And in that, you will help them reach their goals while you scale back on things, while you scale back on the amount of prompting and assistance. Okay, it is November. I am booked up with evaluations. If you're in Connecticut, please, and you need speech therapy, please contact me. I got a referral for somewhere up near New Haven, which is great. I'm always glad to meet new families. Please do reach out to me for evaluations, therapy, and coaching. New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. This is the places where I work. If you need help, assistance in Connecticut, I do have a wonderful assistant who can be there for you. Um, Join me back next week where we'll talk about progress over perfection. Put in the chat a win, something that you with your child was an absolute win this week. Get your tracker, okay? And reach out to me if you have any other questions or comments. If you didn't look at the monthly glance for November, please look at it. It's really good. It is November. It is November 2025. We are wrapping up this year. It is the month of reflection and gratitude. It is the month of reflection and gratitude. Okay. If you have a child that's neurodivergent, know that you were handpicked to be their mom or dad, and you have all the skills that you need to move them ahead in life. You have the patience, you have the love, the consistency, you have the temperament, you have the mindset to work with them, to love them, and to raise them. Okay, you are more than qualified. So stay encouraged, everybody. Talk to me if you need me, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye bye.